Well, it's another big-time matchup in the Big 12, and this time West Virginia playing Houston. Can West Virginia ruin their season?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is a Locked On crossover with Locked On Coogs host Parker Ainsworth. We thank you guys so much for being here on another edition of the show. Going to be brought to you by our friends at Game Time. And right now with Game Time, if you didn't know, now you know. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and you can use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We would love to thank you so much for making Locked On West Virginia and Locked On Coogs your first listen, and for being an everyday listener around here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team, the Mountaineers, and the Coogs every single day. Parker, what's up, man? How are you doing right now?
We're good. We're sitting at 7-1. In America are ranked in the AP basketball and football poll right now, and Houston's one of the 7. It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, right. It stings less that it's not Holgorsen. I will say that. You know,
it might have never been Holgorsen though, so that's probably part of the deal there.
Yeah. Big matchup, right? I mean, look, West Virginia played a lot better last week against a good TCU team. And this is going to be they're going to take everything they've got to stay in this game, right? They're going on the road. It's going to be a 12 p.m. kickoff, in Houston. And this is a game that, I'm assuming Fritz and company aren't overlooking.
I don't think so. It's been like an emotional, like up and down kind of week. Obviously, you have the high highs that everyone knows about beating Arizona State in their place, ranked one on the road's a big deal. There aren't that many of those on anyone's schedule. And then the West Virginia folks might know, but Houston folks have been very cognizant of Kurt Hester, the strength coach, lost his battle with cancer over the weekend. And so that was kind of the roller coaster ride that was. And like I think the team and everyone's like been very doing it for Kurt or during Coach Hester kind of stuff. Unbreakable was kind of his slogan, and they're putting that on the field and on different things.
Oh, we're screwed.
They're wearing black this Saturday. I will say though, like all that emotion is only going to go one of two ways, right, Paul? Like you're either going to have too much stuff going on, or it's going to be, or like you're saying, it's going to be like the fuel. And so I think Houston Cougar fans are hoping for it to be the fuel, but it could be just too much going on, honestly.
Well, if there's a story that we lose to, that's not a bad one to lose to, right? I mean, that's a horrible thing. We've gone through it in our community. Obviously, Calvin McGee passed away under Rich Rod last year before he came to West Virginia, but he coached at West Virginia with Rich Rod before then, so we're all very aware of who he is. It was very sudden. He was young, so it was a heart attack. I think he was in his 50s. It's crazy whenever a coach like that you just think they're going to be around forever passes, and my condolences to them. And I'm sure it's a tough time for the family.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's, cancer sucks. It's not, it hits everyone at different points in their life. It's going to hit, unfortunately, probably everyone listens at some point too, but it's just the reality of the world. Like I said, I thought that the team responded well over the weekend. You just hope they can kind of keep riding it, and that the emotion doesn't become too overwhelming.
Well, we're dealing with that age group we always talk about. I mean, it's
college kids.
It could be it's just really unpredictable. Styles make a lot of fights as well, and you never know how teams are going to match up week to week. You guys were basically what it takes to beat Arizona State last week. Before Arizona State was what it took to beat Texas Tech. You just never know what's going to happen.
So speaking of don't know, sorry, who is Scotty Fox? I don't know anything about this cat. Like what's going on there?
West Virginia, and just to educate your people a little bit, West Virginia is down to quarterback number 4 or 5, depending on where you think he was on the depth chart before the year started. I mean, it's nobody's, your worst dream worst nightmare, you don't think you're going to get to QB5, right? West Virginia has. As a matter of fact, they're in emergency mode right now with quarterbacks. They've got a couple guys that are like semi-healthy, and then we've got a couple receivers that played quarterback in high school that could play if we need be, right? So, yeah, Scotty Fox is an interesting case. I will say this: obviously, I interview a lot of the players and a lot of the guys that come in through the portal. And every player that I interviewed through the portal this year, not every, but a couple, they said, listen, it's not Nico Markule that's getting the hype. It's this young kid, Scotty Fox. And so we knew that he had some potential. I think that he was overwhelmed in his earlier starts. I mean, he had 30 dropbacks going into yesterday. And so he'd been thrown into the fire like second half versus Kansas at Kansas in their first ever Big 12 game in their new stadium. Like, it's a pretty bad place to be thrown into. Threw for over 300 yards last week, and they really tailored the offense to what he does best. He's a dual threat kid. Rich Rodriguez says he's got the quickest release he's ever seen, or one of the quickest. He's got a boatload of arm talent. And I think a mini Connor Weigman, maybe, or something like that at this point in time. Like, he's got those kind of abilities on the field. Not saying he'll turn out to be Weigman or White. How do you say it, Weigman or Weigman?
So we've been told it's Wigman as if there was no
Weigman.
E in it.
Okay.
But I also, to be fair, I said it wrong. If that's the case,
I say it wrong all
for
the time.
the first however many months. The one I have a lot of trouble with is Koziol too, the tight end, but that'll come with the Houston 7. I am fascinated by this though, because there's can always be like lightning in a bottle with freshmen, and like Scotty Fox, I thought did have a pretty. I didn't watch the game as thoroughly as you and your audience, obviously, but like, and when I saw, he looked all right against TCU. Like if you're going to throw an upset out there, you kind of want someone that is lesser known and all that. I was impressed by him, to say the least. 6'2", 6'3", was he 215, 220? Like he doesn't feel like he's like not the right size or anything. It was interesting. Houston's pass rush was a guy after Sam Levitt some, and frankly had Noah Fafita running around. Noah Fafita actually had a really good game, but he was running around a lot. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Do you feel like he's looked like a freshman and that was just like a coming out party, or was that just more about TCU not being as great as we thought they were?
It's more about TCU's defense, in my opinion, probably. I like Scotty a lot. I didn't think he was ready. Going back a couple of weeks ago, but he has no choice but to be, and they did a really good job getting him on the move, calling plays for him that were easy completions. He's still pretty fragile, in my opinion, as far as he can be rattled a little bit. So, he's just not 100% sure of himself yet. But I do think that he has all the physical tools to be a good player. It's just, I don't know where he is in his progression with everything. And I think at the end of the day, we were really happy with last week's performance, and he can only build off of that. Where obviously he's auditioning for quarterback of the future. Lots of decisions will be made based on how he plays these last few games, I would say.
Well, and that probably puts a different kind of like emphasis. Like, I mean, that's incentive to play well in a different kind of way, especially in like modern college football rosters change so much. Do he and Cam Vaughn get along? Cam Vaughn's kind of like the guy, it looks like to me.
Cam Vaughn would be, in my opinion, one of the 3 or 4 best receivers in the conference. And I think Rich Rod said that today as well. If we just had some competency. If you look at what West Virginia's been this year, it's the worst offensive line in the history of the school ever. Go find one. You can't find one worse than this. If you look at PFF, West Virginia at all 5 spots, there's 300 and something odd positional players that you can grade through Power 4 or whatever at each spot. I think West Virginia's left guard was in the 200s. Right guard was dead last. Right tackle in the 100s. Center in the 100s. Left tackle in the 100s. So all these guys are really, really struggling together. They played a lot better in pass protection last week. We have not been able to move anybody in the run game this year. Don't let the running stat that you see from us fool you. We actually don't run the ball well at all. It's just that we have to try so often that by the time the game's over, out of 60 plays or 70 plays, 40 have been runs, right? So, it's been a weird thing. But, yeah, worst offensive line in school history, and that's not even close to an exaggeration. So they're mixing some stuff up. It did get better last week. We'll see. But, that's a long-winded way to say Cam Bond hasn't been able to be really unleashed like he could be. He is an elite player, and he's somebody we absolutely have to keep. But, yes, he is playing well. He could be so much more.
Well, he's just an interesting one. I think Houston, like, again, theoretically, if you're building the upset case, the upset story, I feel like he's naturally going to be like, he'll have 2 touchdowns or something crazy, right? Like he just has a career day and all that. I think that would be a very natural way for that to happen. But interesting you said about running, because they have a bunch of guys that have broken 100 yards, but not a whole lot of guys that have broken 160 yards on the season. So like it feels like they've kind of had like a large committee there in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that right after the break. This episode of Locked On West Virginia and Locked On Houston, Cougars crossover is going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now with FanDuel, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at the bigger payout. Heck, it keeps on getting exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $5 that'll make you holla. So head over to FanDuel.com today, sign up, and you can play your game with FanDuel, which is the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. It's segment 2. What do we do in segment 2? We crack a do. Always. What are you drinking?
Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to buck the trend. I've got Diet Dr. Pepper.
No, I listen, we just called it Diet Dr. Pepper Dew.
There you go. There you go.
So interestingly enough, like I have people that come on and drink water dew, coffee dew. It's always dew though.
Always do.
It's always do, yeah. I'll let you take this segment over because you were starting with the run.
No, so obviously Khalil Wilkins is the leading rusher on the season. That's not going to be a big factor or anything.
No.
But you have a number of guys. I think I have down 6 others that have, and almost 7, I guess, because one guy's got over 90 yards. So like guys that can run the football, but no one's got over 160. And so that implies to me like that they're not getting the care. Like there's not like one bell cow or something like that. Funny
enough, we're also down to our 5th string running back. Truthfully. So the year started out with Jaheim White. He got injured very early on in the year.
Yeah.
Jalen Knighton came along to be our second guy. He didn't even become eligible. And so right the week before the season started, we found out he couldn't play. Ty Edwards was the hero of the backyard brawl. He's out for the season. So, it's just one of those things where we have not had any luck at any position really. And so right now we're doing it by committee with several guys. Dior Hubbard has been pretty good at times. Obviously, he's a guy that has waited his turn and has played well in spurts for us. Obviously, you've got the multiple quarterbacks. You've got Jalen Henderson, who's out right now. Khalil Wilkins, who's out right now. So those are quarterback rushing yards. Nico Marchiol out right now. And then obviously Scotty Fox is another one that will probably have those or close to that amount of yardage as well. He will be playing. And then it's, pick your poison between Sincere Bowers or Clay Ash at the other running back spots. There's also Rich Rodriguez said today, linebacker and pass rusher. And this would be one of the, like, if you're going to make a top 5 list, Curtis Jones Jr. would be on that list of, okay, who do we got to keep for next year's team? this kid would be it, pass rusher. He played running back in high school, and we are practicing him in short yardage right now. That's how pretty bad it is.
Well, and when I think of Rich Rod, and like obviously you and your fan base know him much better, I think of Steve Slade and Pat White. I think of like the gloriest of glories, right, and all of
Mhm.
that. It feels like that's impossible to do with how much turnover you've got going. Like there's just no way to have that kind of a cohesiveness where they like understand where each other are at all times in the option kind of stuff, right? That just can't. There's just no way that's happening
No
right now.
way. Not, and that's just with 81 players. Don't even
Yeah.
factor in your four guys are injured at quarterback and running back. I mean, that's just taking another level to it. And we've had several season-ending guys on the defense as well. We just had one of our best corners got a broken arm. I mean, that's just not one you hear of often in football, but you hear fingers, hands, wrists sometimes, but arm is kind of a strange one. But yeah, so we had one break his arm last week. It's been we're Billy Snake bitten this year, and obviously, I think a lot of us knew that it was going to be a tough year. I think I was optimistic that we would make a bowl game. Obviously, we had to win out for that to happen. That's very unlikely. Would love to see it happen. Obviously, that'd be great momentum, but probably not going to happen unless Scotty Fox just turns into the real deal. But it's been rough because we had 6 years of really mediocre football with Neil. One good year, actually, out of the 6, if you want to give him one good year, the 9 wins that you guys prevented from being 10 wins. God,
I mean,
crazy.
if you want to know, that's when Houston said that they were going to wear the blackout this weekend for Kurt Hester. That was his favorite uniform, and it's also black. There's some mourning aspect to that, I think, too. But the thought of wearing black at home against West Virginia again, everyone was like, "Oh, hey, remember last time, right?" That's definitely been a thought that's crossed through a lot of people's heads. It's also they wore black at home last year against Kansas State.
Yeah,
It's a good uniform for us these days.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Okay, so in moving past Neil Brown, I asked one question, and I don't mean to keep drudging on bad news and be the bad news bears. You mentioned all the injuries.
Yeah.
If injuries were turned the slider off on college football video game, whatever, do you think that they'd be 6-6? Do you think they'd be looking towards that?
I think that we would beat TCU for sure. And I think we would have been
because you beat Pitt and Pitt's fine. They're fine.
Pitt's a good football team, obviously. It's a tough question, really, because there is some bias in it. But I mean, if you're asking me, I think obviously we lost Ohio with most of those people, but we were also 81 new players, and it was just a bad time. I think the BYU game would have been very winnable. So I do think 6-6 would be possible were they here. The BYU game was really close late. They pulled away later in that game. Excuse me, a 38-24 win, but we were in that game. And then we definitely, and we should have beat TCU last week. We actually, in my opinion, we recovered the onside kick, but they blew it dead. But you don't want to have to be leaning on an onside kick anyway. But I do think we would have been close to a 6-16. I think we probably still have a chance to beat Colorado, who just doesn't look very good. And I think obviously Arizona State's beatable at this point.
And we don't know what Sam Levitt's looking like. I mean, he's out at least this Saturday. It looks like upcoming.
Right.
The Colorado thing I think is interesting too. Is like you mentioned coaching transitions and like y'all are on the build back up point of that. Like Colorado kind of feels on the tear it all down part of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're being really honest. Like they're very much falling apart. It looks like.
There's no doubt, and it's weird because we were all told that wasn't going to happen, right? Like, how could it fail?
Louis Vuitton
what's crazy is because of his name recognition and the recruiting that he brings, he'll probably, if he really wanted, could have another job, but I don't think his health is going to allow. And to be fair, maybe that's playing a part here. Maybe he can't give all of himself with everything he's got going on health-wise. I don't know this. I'm just speculating, But yeah, it's definitely not great in Colorado right now.
Well, and yeah, like it's not going great for them. I do think, though, it's been weird. Like, they hired a bunch of assistant coaches that don't have a whole lot of coaching experience, brought in a whole bunch of players that had never played together, and they seem to cycle that over and over and over again.
Right.
You know, they were okay, better than average last year, I would say, with the Heisman Trophy winner on the roster. Like, that's not a great look. So maybe you get that one later down the season. In this game, Paul, and maybe this is segue. What are you worried about with Houston? I don't mean to make it seem like you should
Koziol,
be.
obviously. I mean, I've done my research. Trust me. I mean,
I know you have. That's what I'm asking.
Not just him, though. Obviously, I joked with you early on that I wanted to make a burner account named Connor Wigman's accent, right? Like that was going to be a burner that I just to mess with you. In all seriousness, though, there is a lot about you guys that bother me, and I think you guys are capable of winning this league, although you've won some close games. To be where you guys, I don't think anybody would have expected that, though, right? And I'll play a game usually when I have people on for crossovers. What I'll do is I will name a player, and you tell West Virginia fans on a scale of 1 to 10 how worried they should be about that player. Is that cool?
That's fun. That's fun. Let's go. Let's do it. Rank it.
Rashawn Sanford.
0 because he tore his ACL before the season started.
Dean Connors.
High. It's a scale of 1 to 10. I'll go like a 7.5, 8. I think because he's a white running back, people think he's Cam Scatabo, but he's actually more of a shifty, fast guy. Had a sick catch against Oklahoma State, like a one-handed Sports Center top 10 kind of catch. He also is a zone read kind of running back with cutback stuff. I think he's really good. I'm high on him.
If Wigman goes out, what about Zion Chris?
Zion Chris, the backup quarterback, and so I don't mean this in a way that's detrimental. When Wigman transferred in, people wanted Zion Chris to move to receiver because he's electric.
So fast. He's very fast. Okay.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, you can look at the stats. He's not a passer of the football. He beat Kansas State with his legs. He beat TCU with his legs. He is that kind of fast. He is not a passer. I'd probably put him at a 5. If you can't tackle the run, he's going to hurt you, but that's a pretty big qualifier for a quarterback.
Yeah. So you've got a trio of receivers in Jackson, Thomas, and Broussard. So take it away.
I would give Amari Thomas the whatever the highest of the group is. We'll say 8.5, 9. He seems to just have a really good connection with Wigman. Honestly, I think that like they just seem to have a good understanding of how to get a first down a lot. I would go to Harvard Broussard at somewhere closer to 6 or 7. What's the meme or whatever. I think that Broussard is really good. He's good for like 2 or 3 catches a game. And he usually feels like one of them is important. I actually think the third receiving threat, and we'll probably get him his own segment here, is Tanner Koziol, because he's listed as a tight end. He is 6'7". He is 240 pounds, but he lines up in the slot. He lines up in one-on-one situations a lot. He's really just a gigantic receiver that has to block sometimes.
That was a huge recruiting win for you guys when you got him. You had to pin up a lot of people for him.
Yes.
It was Wisconsin or something at first.
He was at Wisconsin. So he was at Ball State, I should point out.
Because we wanted him too.
Ball State needed to gain some weight, gained the weight, went to Wisconsin. They told him he was going to have to block like 70% of the plays. And he was like, where can I go catch some footballs? And Houston was like, we got a spot. So he's in Houston catching footballs now. And he's Houston's leading receiver in terms of receptions. I mean, he's a receiver that has
player, and that includes Wigman, right?
He's certainly the most pro. Wigman,
he's going to be a pro.
Yeah,
well,
like he's.
I don't know. What about Ganji though?
Ganji the what? No, I wouldn't think Ganji's going to be an impactful. I wouldn't think he's going to have a big impact on this one. I do think though that Koziol is probably the most pro ready on the frame side of things. Certainly on the offense, the defense might have a couple guys that have a say in that, but some pro coach can say, "Hey, I can take a 6'7", 245-pound tight end and figure something out," and that's just too much clay to play with, so to speak.
So, okay, on your offensive line, are the starters still Brooks, Ganji, Merriman, Wyckoff, etc.?
It mostly Demetrius Hunter's played a lot of the center snaps. And then over at the right tackle, you got Dalton Merriman, who's had like high highs and low. He had a really bad tech game. Really bad tech game. But for the most part, that's them. I don't know where I lost Paul to, but it looks like we're still rolling. I think the offensive line for Houston in this one actually kind of feels like a big win for them. Not to be the guys like being negative about other programs or whatever, but I just feel like West Virginia struggled stopping the run a lot this year. And so I kind of feel like Houston with the quarterback power stuff, getting behind those guys and getting behind their pads, especially once they get a lead. They have had multiple games with a drive that lasted over 9 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's what you guys do. You are by far the most ball control offense in the league. It's very similar to what Neil Brown was like, actually.
Well, and then what I will say is once you get down, like they got down early to Tech, it's like, well, now what do we do? Because like that, you can't. It's not built to come back very fast.
It's not. You would think with Wigman and his history and Jimbo's offenses, and they go fast a little bit sometimes. You think he'd be able to kind of but I mean, it's more than just the quarterback. So,
well, and they also, to be fair, ran him out of town. I mean, we love Connor. We're glad he came back home. He's originally from Houston, but they did run him out of town because it wasn't working. So I think there's somebody who said, like, yeah, you're right. Jimbo does a fast offense, but that maybe not have been to Connor's benefit.
Fair. Let's go to one more break, Parker. On the other side, we'll do a prediction maybe, and maybe do some game keys, something like that. Trying to find the ad. Oh, there it is. Okay, after the break, guys, what we'll do is whenever I clicked off a minute ago, my ads went away for a second. So after the break, guys, we're going to do a prediction, talk about some game keys. West Virginia is going to win. We know it. We'll be right back. This episode of Locked On West Virginia and Locked On Houston crossover going to be brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Right now with Game Time, it's a pretty simple thing. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. You've got tailgates. You've got rivalries. You've got energy in the stands. There's nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel a lot like a battle, even more so than the game itself, Parker. You've got endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I like to use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's actually the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see, what you pay. It's that simple. I actually pulled up Game Time to check some stuff out for the TCU game, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games at West Virginia or Houston for as low as $25. It's pretty good. Honestly, it's even faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets personally. So you can do like I did. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase where the terms apply. But don't forget, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today. And just like me, you can swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today, and then you'll answer the question of all questions. What time is it?
It's game time.
It's game time.
I assumed you were throwing that off the backboard. I probably should have asked.
No, that's yeah. Listen, that used to be the read, right? What time is it? It's game time. I've never quit reading it because I love it so much. So I just throw it in there extra. Watch it.
I will say, I got Game Time pulled up right now. You can get, what is this one? This is third row down behind the West Virginia bench for $38. Not bad, Paul.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. $38 is a good deal, man.
All fees included.
That's a really good deal.
All right. So let's talk. You wanted to talk some about
game keys. Give me some game keys. Like, what do you think Houston needs to do to win this game? Obviously, don't beat themselves, right? But what are some things you envision for them? Like, okay, obviously we're favored in this game, but there are things you got to do to win the game. that maybe they specialize in or West Virginia is not good at, whatever?
Yeah, so you've watched a lot of football. It feels like to me that once you introduce something new to your offense midseason, you've got like 3 games before people start to scout it. And Houston, a couple games back, put in this like QB power stuff, like Oklahoma used to run with Baker Mayfield, where like you kind of like watch the wide zone out of the running back or the wide receiver, and the quarterback has the option to keep it and run like a power, right? Connor Wigman's had like a lot of success running this because he kind of waits for the hole to open up before pulling and going. But it's been a few games, and so like, what does Rich Rod, who while they're struggling this year, has had a lot of success as a college football coach. What is he going to have that staff done or doing to get ready for that? Will be interesting to me. So kind of when they hit that, the first couple series, what does that look like? I also think we mentioned the offensive line going into that segment. I think establishing the run more generally is a big deal, whether it's Wigman or Dean Connors or whomever. I think that's a big deal for Houston. On that side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, interesting what after watching Scotty Fox now, again, much more closely than what would West Virginia be trying to do on offense to secure it? What's the thing they've got to be sure they do? Besides, like you said, not turning it over and all the cliches.
They've got to be good. I'll stay on schedule and first down. I think that's the biggest thing because you can't let a kid like Scotty Fox get behind the chains early at any point. Then you're talking about Houston's pass rush, and you don't want to deal with that. So I think, first of all, stay ahead of schedule for West Virginia. Make sure you're always in advantageous situations if you can be, so that Scotty can either pass or run on any down. You don't want to ever make it obvious as to what he's going to do, right? Because he's young. Houston can do simulated pressures or any myriad of things to trick the kid. So we don't want to see that. I think, obviously, we're going to have to be able to get some semblance of a run game going. It's not going to be easy in this game, but we're going to try. Thankfully, it's not Corleone or anything like that up front this week, but Houston has 2 big defensive tackles that are good. So, they're not Corleone level, but they're pretty good. So I think it's going to be tough for us to do that. But Rich Rod's always comes up with ways to at least have some semblance of the run game there to try to help. And I think if West Virginia wins this game, it's going to look like this. Like you said earlier, I think Cam Vaughn's going to be heavily involved. I don't think there's any player in the league that can guard him one-on-one, or very few if there are. So, can you protect Scotty Fox long enough to give Cam Vaughn time to run past whoever it is? Because he's got that Matthew Golden type speed. Like, that's the kind of player he is, right? He's going to run straight by people. So that's what he does. And if he's productive, West Virginia will have a chance. On defense, you just replicate what you did last week against TCU. You'll be in every game that you're in if you're able to do that. Obviously, with Wigman being a more mobile quarterback, it gets trickier. But, and he's also a strong player. It's another thing he doesn't get a lot of credit for. He's strong, tough to bring down. So can West Virginia get to him and prevent him from gaining yards with his legs? I think that's going to be important. So if West Virginia can keep this thing in the 20s anywhere, I think we got a shot.
Well, and it's funny because like I think of Houston's being a relatively low scoring team because of how they've ball controlled certain games. I would think though against a team, look, I don't mean this rude, that just hadn't scored a lot of touchdowns, right? Like the less touchdowns scored in this game, the more it probably favors a West Virginia. And so that's interesting that you said that. When you think about the defensive side of the football, and now not to just keep going question, interaction is fine too, but is there something that they need to do defensively to slow down the run that they just have done sometimes or not enough, or certain guys need to step up?
Yeah, they just needed to get healthy. Best nose tackle's been hurt for a few weeks now. And if you look at the first 3 weeks of the season, we were a top 15 defense. It's just crazy, including against Pitt. We brought Jamoy Robinson onto the field, which was our crown jewel of the offseason, and he's been a total bust, $1 million bust. That's what he is. I mean, it's just time to be honest about it. Coaches have said he was suspended the first 3 games through the NCAA sanctions, and because they were trying to get him eligible, I guess is a better way to put it. And so and as soon as he stepped on the field after the 3rd week, our defense totally changed. Can't say it's his fault, But it's weird that he didn't play last week and our defense went back to the playing the way it did before he came on the field again. And I don't know if he just, for whatever reason, creates some kind of hole somewhere for us. I don't know. It's never just one player, but I do think that, without him, we just played a lot better. We'll see if we can continue that. Obviously, we have two really good corners in Chambers and Coach Jr. And I know that sounds crazy to say that, but we really do have two individual good corners. There's just the rest of our defense around them hasn't been great. So they're capable of having good games and everything. I don't know, man. It's a tough question to answer overall because the defense, if it could just go back to the way it was the first 3 weeks of the year when they have 12 sacks in the first 3 games, that would be great. But I don't think they're going to. They just went away.
So in the defensive backfield, I think that is it? I don't know which one you're calling coach there, but is it Jason Chambers, the guy he seems to have the PFF scores, the this, the that, whatever. I'm intrigued by Fred Perry because I think he looks really
Oh yeah,
good,
he's a great player. Yeah,
but I don't think he covers Koziel because let's just be blunt, he's not
hell
very big.
no. He's
So
too small.
what do they? I mean, you're on high,
There's
low, and
nothing
all
you
that
can
kind of
do.
stuff, but it feels like they're really short in the back half, like just actually physically not very tall.
They've got one guy that could probably guard him a little bit, but I don't know where he's. It's tough, right? Like I said, there's just not a lot of height there. I don't think there's really anybody that's going to be capable of guarding him. For goodness sakes, he's so big. But if there's one guy, no, I don't even think anybody can, to be honest. I'm not even going to put the one guy out there because I don't think he can. This is Koziel's. He's a mismatch. Westford, like they asked Coach Alley about it today. Like, what are you going to do against Koziel? And he said that you have to really attack him in the run game. In other words, whenever he's blocking, you've got to make him feel that. You've got to. He said sometimes we may send an extra guy to chip him and just kind of work him down. That way that he's not 100% whenever he's not hurting, but like just be physical with him, right?
Yeah, wear him down.
Yeah.
And I would point out that's also like he left Wisconsin because he didn't want to block as often as Wisconsin was going to ask him to. He left in the second transfer portal window, like after spring ball. And I think that while we see what that means, and he's got more than 5 catches in all but one game. I think that you see him play out with those strengths, but also you see that probably means that there was something to that not wanting to block or whatever. I think he's better at it than people act like. It's just like you're saying, it's not what he wants to do, what he's best at necessarily. All right. I want a score prediction though, Paul. I'm obviously going to.
I've picked against West Virginia for weeks and weeks now. I haven't picked us in a game for like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm picking us this week. I just have a gut feeling that we're going to figure one out. Surely we can't go an entire year. Maybe it is one of those 2 and 10 years or 3 and 9 years. Everybody has them some point. We've never really had them. I mean, to be honest, we've always either been mediocre or really good. And that's since I've been alive. But we've never had the upheaval we've had. So anyways, I think West Virginia figures a way to just get the one upset they shouldn't get. We're not better than Houston. I don't think we're better than Houston, but I do think that we are playing well enough and we figured some things out to where it's going to have some things go our way, right? We're probably, it's so cliche, but we're going to have to get a turnover or two. And we're going to have to be able to, because the way you guys play and the way we play defense, we punch at the ball a lot. I think that's possible. And maybe we can even get a couple 3 and outs on you guys and score early and put some pressure on you guys on a really emotional weekend. I'll say, 26-20 West Virginia. I'll say, somehow we just hold you guys in some check.
I think that if it's I think if West Virginia gets into the mid-20s, like you're saying, that favors them a lot. I feel this game is going to be Houston just over 30. I think that they've got a couple mismatches to exploit. And then bluntly, I think that you've seen football, like the way that running the football like this can snowball things, right? Those 1 yard gains, those 2 yard gains in the first quarter turn into 4 and 5 yard gains, and you bust one or whatever because they're wearing it down over the course of the game. Because you got, like I said, guys that are injured and you have the backups in, and it's gonna be a hot Houston morning and all of that. I think that I'm gonna go 31-17. I do think that Cam Vaughn's a matchup problem. I'm going to give him a touchdown in this. And then I think there'll be some sort of a weird defensive touchdown. Like something weird's going to happen because, of course, it will, right? And so that's kind of see the couple scores.
You're wearing the black uniforms.
Yeah, there you go.
Something weird's going to happen.
I did like y'all wore your black uniforms. I like those.
They're really nice. Yeah. So I will say this one more last point before we go. If Scotty Fox somehow gets hurt or dinged or doesn't play, I will tell you guys, I've been saying this all year, and even though a lot of our fans hasn't seen him yet, Max Brown, I really like his arm a lot. He could present some issues because of how much experience he has if he comes into the game. I think they're rolling with Scotty right now because he's just the future and has a lot of upside. But I do think Max Brown can sling it around some. If he comes into the game, just pay attention to that if he gets a shot. I really like it.
Again, they've got so many quarterbacks, it's kind of hard to keep track of who's on first. But he played at Florida or something like that? Am I making that up?
Yeah, he played at Florida.
Anyway, that's all I know.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a ton of ability. It's you don't go to Florida if you're bad, obviously. But he transferred to Charlotte, and I talked to him about it. He said he had to try to play hero ball on a team with not very many good players and threw a bunch of picks. He was just trying to force things in, trying to be hero every week. They were a really bad team. It happens. But, I'm not saying he's an elite player, but he has a very good arm. Obviously, like I said, he went to Florida for a reason. And I think if it comes down to passing the ball, he'd probably be a little more effective than Scotty just because he's been in that situation more. Not that he's a better player necessarily. I just think the last time we saw Scotty on the road, it was very, very catastrophic. So we're kind of hoping that he's grown in the little time that he's, hopefully he turns into what Rich Rod thinks he can be because we need him to. But it's been fun talking with you, man.
Yeah, good talk some ball. Gotta love the crossover times.
Yep. Guys, don't forget to like the video, please. Subscribe if you're new. We're on either show, Locked On Coogs or Locked On West Virginia. And absolutely, positively don't forget to just come back every day. That's what we appreciate from you guys. And thanks for sticking around for 43 minutes and listening to us two old guys talk about football. We will be back every day with our respective programs. Basketball season's approaching, and definitely excited about that, as I know Parker is. And until then, guys, what is your all's thing that you say?
We have a go Coogs. Go Coogs.
Go Coogs. Okay, well, for Parker, it's go Coogs. For us, don't forget to cue them country roads. Locked On Big 12, your second listen, though, by the way, guys. Drake Toll killing it right now. Make sure you check out Locked On Big 12, and we'll see you on the next one. Good night.